Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande, Hare Hare Bol. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Srinivani Pastachas. It's not every day you get to play in Mridanga, that sounds good. So I might as well take advantage. Jai Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopi Chana Balaba Giri Bharadhari Gopi Chana Balaba Giri Bharadhari Yashodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamana Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Hare Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Sri Sri Radha Madhava ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Go Premanande, Hari Hari.
I'd just like to do a short introduction.
Some of those introductions are outdated.
Hare Krishna, welcome everyone. Are you able to hear me? Krishna Priya, sorry. So, first of all, I wanted to thank Acharya Prabhu and his very, very, very significant other, Krishna Priya Mataji, to invite us to this beautiful home and for hosting this Bhakti Vriksha program. And we are
Acharjo.
Acharjo Das.
Acharjo Das.
Yeah.
Acharya is Sanskrit, Acharjo is Bengali. Josh.
Mahaprabhu will shave him for sure.
Yeah, yes, definitely. He already did. Shaved and shaved.
So we are exceedingly fortunate to have with us Mahatma Prabhu. I'll read out the formal introduction and then just take like 30 seconds to share a personal anecdote about Prabhu as well.
Okay.
So the official formal introduction is born in Los Angeles, California in 1950. And he came in contact with Srila Prabhupada's teachings in 1969 through the Bhagavad Gita as it is. You'll see a copy of the Bhagavad Gita also out there. There are other copies as well, if you would like one. Later that year, he met Srila Prabhupada. So this is 1969. He met Srila Prabhupada personally and soon moved into the ISKCON temple in Berkeley, California, where he received both first and second initiation. Over the years, he has served in many different capacities, including book distribution, Sankirtan leadership, temple presidency, college preaching, congregational development, and educational outreach. He's widely known
Cooking, deity worship, bathroom cleaning. What else did I do? I reorganized the kitchen in San Diego, 1972. It's very organized.
Mahatma Prabhu is widely known for his spiritually uplifting music. In fact, just a couple of days ago, we were listening to his kirtan in Sadhu Sangha. It was so beautiful.
Hare Krishna.
Especially his renowned recording of Brahma Samhita and for conducting transformative workshops on topics such as japa meditation. Last year, and I would say, I would like to say you did it 2 years in a row, but I remember at least 1 year where you did it in Cincinnati. It was a 3-day japa workshop, and it was incredible because it totally transformed, at least for me, the quality of my japa. Also workshops on forgiveness, humility, vows, and marriage.
And self-care.
And self-care.
And self-care for teens. Just added that.
Self-care for?
Teenagers.
Teenagers. Oh, this is incredible because my daughter would love to.
We just did it with my daughter.
Oh.
2 weekends ago.
I did not know that.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Anyway, we'll do it again.
And he's currently based in Alachua, Florida. He resides with his wife, Janava Devi Dasi, and daughter Shama Mandali. And he continues to travel globally, inspiring devotees through his teaching and personal example. I have known Mahatma. I first came in the association of Mahatma Prabhu back in the year 2000-2001, back in Dallas. And kirtans were mesmerizing. I could not move an inch. It was incredible.
Kalachanji's mercy.
Yeah. But I have personally known him to be exceedingly compassionate and very practical. He's not just philosophically very uplifting, but also very, very practical. I would very regularly listen to his classes on Facebook. And so today, since we are all here, let's take this opportunity to clear the doubts in our heart and just be upfront about anything that we would want to. Everything is on the table. Let's not, reserve anything. So this is our exceedingly great opportunity for us to, avail of. Let us please welcome Mahatma Prabhu by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesha Shinduvari Paschachita Satarine Vanchakalpatarubhishcha Kripasindhuvyeva Chapatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangulangayati Girim Yakripa Tamaham Bande Sri Guru Dinatarinam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. So we didn't plan any topic. One thought is you just ask questions, put them on the table, your doubts, and we'll wash them. And give them back to you all clean. Or you could suggest something you would like me to speak about.
I think Q&A would be great.
What?
Question and answers would be great.
Okay.
And that way it can, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
There were a couple of questions that came our way, Prabhu.
Okay.
I can start off there and that will give everybody time to also think about it. So one question that keeps coming up within our group is, how does one develop niṣṭhā? How does one develop the steadiness? Because what we're seeing is that it's not that people are completely uninspired to do any service or come to the temple, but they would come and then things come up in their lives, kids, family, job, whatever. and then there would be a gap, and then they would again come in and so this up and down, this sine curve, how do we overcome that?
Yeah. That's called life happens. Have you noticed that? That life happens? Yeah. The whole day today, since after breakfast, I was sitting here dealing with life, just dealing with what I have to do, till we went on a walk at 5:15. So from 9:30, well, I took a little nap. We had lunch, but, it's just life happens, right? I think, at least I can speak personally, and I think this is also supported in our books, that when you want something badly enough, you never allow anything to get in the way. Just like when you're hungry, you go to your refrigerator and there's nothing in it, what do? You go, okay, we just don't eat. You get in your car and you go out and you get something, right? Isn't it? You ever just like, oh, there's nothing to eat, so we won't eat today. It's too much trouble, go to the store. I don't have time. No, you'll always eat. I'm really tired. I have so much to do. Let's just not sleep tonight, It's a botheration. We don't do that. So the things that we value the most are the things, obviously, which get priority. And so what you're talking about is other things become your priority, right? So could you get me that Japa 2 book? I want to read something. It's a really cool. It'll answer your question.
Japa 2.0.
Japa 2.0. Japa Affirmations 2.0.
Japa Affirmations 2.0.
It's like a gray and burgundy color cover. Yeah. If you're wondering why it's called Japa Affirmations 2.0, because it's the sequel to the first book, Japa Affirmations. But a good answer to your question is in one of these affirmations. I just have to find it. I was reading it the other day. No, I have to find it. Oh no. Maybe this is it. Let's see. Anyway, it'll be good even if it isn't. I regularly reflect on the quality of my japa with the intention of correcting bad japa practices, and implementing good practices in order to be able to consistently chant good japa. So you can apply this to life in general. I regularly reflect on the quality of my spiritual life with the intention of correcting anything that I need to correct and implementing things that I need to do. That's what you do when you give something priority, right? And basically what I said here, or maybe it's another affirmation, is that Maya doesn't want you to chant japa. Or if you chant japa, she doesn't want you to chant good japa, so she will distract you, or she will tell you, chant later, you're too busy, or you can't finish your rounds, or don't make a commitment or whatever, because you have more important things to do. So that's the way Maya works, and that's why we're in the material world. That's why we still have a material body. In case you didn't realize why you have this body, it's because you put your spiritual life in the back burner in the last life. And if you put it on the front burner, you wouldn't be here now. You'd be with Krishna dancing and having fun. Did you know that? Yeah, that's why. So the problem is, well, this is what I've seen. Whatever you give priority to, always there's time for it. Whatever you don't give priority to, always tends not to be time for it. Even though the same 24 hours, right? And many devotees have said when they don't have a desire to chant japa, they can't find the time. When they have desire, they always find the time. So I would start with doing what we have to do to cultivate the desire. Because part of the answer to your question is what I was going to say before you finished is how to become steady. And my answer is be steady when you're not steady. Even if you're not steady, be steady through the unsteadiness. And how can you be steady through the unsteadiness? That's steady through the unsteadiness. Well, just think about your life when you really want something. It's really important to you. And the world's throwing things at you. What do? You just kind of go through it. Isn't it? If you don't want it, you're like, this is not worth it. I'm not going to go through this. It's not worth it. But if you want it, you're like, tolerate it. We'll just have to go through it. It's worth it because I want the goal, right? So if spiritual life is important to you, then even though there's so much going on in your life, you'll walk through it somehow, or you'll deal with it. And number two, part of the problem is we have too much going on. We have some control of how much is going on in our life. So if we have so much going on that it gets in the way of our spiritual life, then we have to look and think, well, did I create that? Was it circumstantial? It's just the way life is, or did I add to the complexity of it? And sometimes we add to it, don't we? So, it's like if you're going to school and you're studying and you're serious about your education, a lot of things you have to let go of because you don't have time for them, right? And if you're not serious, you just party and hope you make it, right? Isn't it? All the Indian students are like, they don't party. They're just like, they're here to get an education. And the Westerns are like, try to, isn't it? A bit like that. More or less. I can't say all the Western students or all the Indians, but you're coming from India. You're not going to like come into the West to party in college. My parents just spent all the money they had plus the money they didn't have. I'm not going to come here and party. So you're focused on it. So whatever difficulties are there, you just go through it, and you just eliminate from your life things that get in the way. And so this is the same with spiritual life. So if you have so much going on that it's getting in the way of your spiritual life, that's not good. Right? And the short answer is lock your phone up in a safe for at least 15 hours a day and throw the key away. Put the key in your attic under 10 boxes. That's a hassle to get to it. That could save you a lot of time. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Okay.
Questions?
Prabhu, how I can, I do japa in the morning, but many times I feel like I do not put enough efforts and qualities there.
Yeah.
It turns to be that, hey, it's 45 minutes done, around 10 it becomes mechanical.
Yeah.
And many times I do not feel, it's like, Lord, like I do not know what I should do to develop more quality and convert those mechanical japas into soulful japas, which will...
Yeah, well, how about this idea? There's no such thing as mechanical japa. So meditate on that. There's no such thing as mechanical japa. It's not actually japa. It's like are you married?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there such thing as a mechanical relationship with your wife? Like, you're like a robot. You just, with no emotion. You just do, what do you want me to do? Okay, I'll do it. That would be weird, wouldn't it? Yeah. So I like that idea. There's no such thing as mechanical bhakti. I mean, there's no such thing as that. Bhakti is just rules and regulations. Patra pushpam palam toyam yo me bhakta prayachyati tadaham bhaktu paritam ishnami prayatatmana. Krishna's using this word bhakti twice in that verse. Leaf, fruit, flower, water. So what is the essence of bhakti? It's the mood, right? It's the affections, the love. Maybe you say you don't have any love, then it's your sincerity, it's your desire, your effort, your attempt. That's your bhakti, right? I'm trying, Even in a relationship, maybe the love's not there strongly, but you try to be a better husband, a better father. You're trying. So that's your love, that's your devotion. So I think a nice meditation for you is, there is no such thing as mechanic. That's not japa. You can call it what you want, but it's not japa. Japa it's a prayer. It's a prayer. So is there a such thing as mechanical praying? Like, I give you a prayer and I go to the deities and read this to the deities. My dear Lord, I want to surrender unto you. It's like a robot going. There's no such thing. So your japa is a prayer to Krishna. Please help me. So you can't, that doesn't work mechanically. Krishna laughing at you. My dear Lord, please accept me as your surrendered servant. Krishna's like, who is this loser here? What's this guy all about? What's wrong with him? Yes? I mean, that's the way you should think. So, if Krishna is standing in front of you and you can pray to him, you wouldn't pray mechanically, would you? Wouldn't make sense. So, just meditate on that. That mechanical japa, I mean, I'm just being a little fanatical right now because I think it'll help. That mechanical japa, it's not bhakti. You can call it Vaidhi bhakti, but even Vaidhi bhakti has to have some devotion in it. So, here's another thing that's really important about japa. When we're chanting and we're bored, you ever chant and you're bored, just like you don't want to chant? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, If your japa was like a sabji, that would be like the worst tasting sabji you ever ate. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Ram Hare Hare. You ever see a bored devotee? Looks like he's eating sabji that's got been sitting around for a few days or something. That's the worst thing you can allow yourself is to get in a state of mind when you're chanting that you're bored. Because if you're bored, it means there's absolutely no appreciation for the holy name. Right? I mean, isn't that what boredom is? It's like, I don't want to do this. I have no need for this. I have no appreciation for this. I want to do something else. And think about the times that you chanted good rounds. How did you feel? Appreciative, right? I'm so fortunate. Thank you, Krishna, for coming in your holy name. I don't deserve it, all of that. So, boredom, appreciation, they're on the opposite end. So, what I think is really important is whenever you get in that mode where you just go mechanical, just stop and say, thank you, Krishna, for giving the holy name. And immediately you touch your heart at that point and your appreciation goes up. I'm so fortunate, thank you, Krishna, that I can chant. Because boredom is not thank you. Boredom is like, why do I have to chant so many rounds? Isn't it? That's what boredom is. Boredom is like complaining. Isn't it? I don't want to do this. So when you don't want to do it, and when you don't want to do it, when you lack appreciation and you do it, that's mechanical. Isn't it? Otherwise, if there's appreciation, it wouldn't be mechanical. Thank you, Krishna. So it gets mechanical, just stop. Thank you, Krishna, for giving me the holy name. I am so fortunate. And I will tell you a funny story. This is really interesting. Pay attention, because you've never heard this before. It's almost weird. So, after my surgery, I could hardly talk. And the first Gayatri I chanted took me 40 minutes because I was so weak. My mind had no energy to focus. I couldn't, I chant, and then the mind would go off for like a minute. You can imagine if it takes, how many mantras? 7 mantras? 7 mantras, 40 minutes. That's like 6 minutes a mantra. And the mantra, it normally takes me 3 minutes to chant all 7. 3 minutes and 40 seconds to chant all 7, and it took me 40 minutes. No energy. But what to speak of energy to chant? I didn't have any. So I didn't have physical energy. I couldn't breathe. Hardly, I could, this was like, as much as I could breathe. And I'd start coughing. So I couldn't chant. And that was going on for weeks and weeks and weeks. And, I hardly could say the one, then I got a little better. I could barely say Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, without losing my breath. And I was like, what's the point of chanting like this? It's like, I can't even chant. It's so bad. So I waited till I got better. But it was like 2 months I didn't chant. Never in my life did I ever miss. Maybe, one day in 10 years I missed and I made it up the next day. So this never happened to me, where I'd missed that many rounds. So I had to start over again, and my rounds were like, I'm the japa man, and my rounds were probably worse than everyone in this movement at that time. And I was like, I wasn't used to like focusing and, developing all the moves, because I was just totally focused on how bad my body was and how weak I was, and I couldn't sleep and this and that, It was just all. And so I finally, after like maybe 3 months after the operation, I could start chanting. Well, maybe 2 months, I think. I went 2 months without chanting. So it was after 2 months I could chant. I was chanting some really bad rounds. We say in America, if you say, that's bad, you mean it's good. I say bad, I don't mean they're good. I mean literally bad. Prabhu, my rounds were bad. You go, cool. Oh, no, they were bad. Really bad. So I was chanting, and this was like, I hadn't chanted in 2 months, and it was just like, my mind's everywhere. And I was thinking, I'm so happy that I'm chanting now. Even though these are the worst rounds I've ever chanted in a long time, I'm just happy to be chanting. And then it became relishable. I'm so fortunate. I can chant, even though I'm chanting horribly. Because normally we're like, if I don't chant good rounds, I don't feel good, right? And I was chanting bad rounds and feeling good because of the fact that I hadn't chanted in 2 months and I could chant. I was just appreciating that. So if you're ever in that mode where I don't want to chant, it's boring, mechanical, just think, wow, thank you, Krishna, this is amazing. I can chant your holy name. And you'll relish chanting bad rounds. I think I made a video called Relishing Chanting Bad Rounds. I don't know if it's out yet, but it's very interesting. Isn't it? That's pretty cool. I can relish bad japa. Yeah, you can. Well, that's good to know, because my japa is always bad. So you can relish bad japa. Does that help? Yeah, try it. Put it into practice. See what happens. Is that your wife? No.
He drove all the way from Columbus.
Oh.
For
An hour and a half.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, fantastic. Hare Krishna.
Would you mind talking a little bit about relationships? And I'll set the context. Many devotees, they struggle with balancing family. And by family, we mean like either parents or siblings or, relatives and whatnot, who don't necessarily fully understand, or they might understand at a superficial level. They're not very appreciative of the fact, and they feel alienated because you've taken up a practice where association with them is either neglected or deficient. And then the expectations are also not just related to family members, they're related to their friends, to their colleagues, to their people that you've grown up with, things like that and so on. And this bleeds into the interpersonal relationship between parents or whatever and one says. So how does one balance all this?
Not easy. I think the first mistake that I've seen, this devotee told me a story his wife's not a devotee, and he was driving, and he got really mad, and he was honking and yelling. And she said something like, what did she say to him? So this is what you learned, and this is what you learned in the Hare Krishna movement, how to yell and scream at people while you're driving. Yeah. She said she was being a little sarcastic with him, because he's practicing Krishna consciousness, but he's acting worse than he was before. And so people see that and think, what's happening here? So not only is that a mistake, but it's a reflection for the devotee. I'm supposed to be kind to everyone. I'm supposed to be humble and so forth. So that's one thing to consider, how, maybe my life's different from my relatives, but am I treating them disrespectfully? Am I being unkind to them, uncaring or whatever? And if that's the case, then something must be wrong with me. At the same time, you have boundaries because of your spiritual practice. And I mean, I don't know how it works in Indian families, but in my family, it was just like, this is what I need to do. And this is how far I can go, and, I can't go out and drink alcohol, I can't go out and eat meat, I don't want to go to the movies, this and that. But these other things we can do. So it's just so that they know what your boundaries are. So it's clear, if you try to push me, we can talk about it, but if you push me beyond a certain point, I just have to say no, because this is what I'm committed to, and I've made vows and so forth. So I think that's important. And sometimes you have to remind them a lot until they understand, okay, this is just, what he's committed to. That helps, because if they understand, then it's mutual respect. Okay, I respect you because we have a relationship, and I'm making you feel like I don't care about the relationship. So I will respect that, and then you give me space to do my sadhana. And so that's work for me. When I'm with my family, it's just you can talk to me after 10, just pretend I don't exist before 10 a.m., because they're okay, because they know, he's going to go chant, he's going to do what he does. And they just, they don't bother me. And then we give time to them, so they're happy. And in some cases it's easier, in some cases it's not, but you do have your principles, you can't compromise, but there are areas you can compromise. Yeah. Look at all the men who remain brahmacharis their whole life. How does that, how does that affect their family? It's not easy. But I think for a lot of those families who didn't appreciate it in the beginning because, their kids dropped out of IIT or whatever, or graduated and then became brahmacharis, it's that's a big shock. I think that over time they see the good qualities they develop, and the service they're doing and how it's helping people. And then they come to appreciate it. It's like my son, I always wanted, him to get married and this and that, but he turned out to be an amazing person. So that's also, you've seen that? Yeah. Some of the people who are most antagonistic became the most favorable. Especially if the other siblings, had their lives were not pristine like that, they can appreciate even more, And another thing is that if you have bad relationships with people, it's always going to be a problem for you, materially, socially, spiritually, everywhere, emotionally. It's always a problem. And we don't need more problems. We have enough already. So, I think sometimes we think, well, something that's not directly related to my spiritual life wouldn't be a problem, but it is. It's everything affects everything. And so bad relationships, it's just very disturbing, it's unhealthy. And you're chanting japa and your mother's like crying because you're a sadhu or something. It's difficult. That happened to me. My mother just like, she couldn't take it. And sometimes, what can you do? You try your best. Sometimes your best isn't good enough, but at least you try your best to keep good relationships. There's a story, it's an interesting story, I don't know if you heard. Prabhupada had a disciple, and the disciple came and said, I can't do this Krishna consciousness. Western, early days West, probably 66, 67. And maybe he was close, probably was fairly close with Prabhupada. I mean, everybody was close, it was a small movement. And then he said, he couldn't do Krishna consciousness and he's going to go out in the world to do whatever, which I think at that time, because the movement was young and the culture of America was different, to go out and leave Krishna consciousness probably meant he's going to start eating meat and drinking alcohol and so forth. It's a little different now. People might leave, but they often wouldn't leave for that. And so Prabhupada spoke to him and said, thank you for your service and this and that. And there was nothing he could do to inspire that person to stay. And then Prabhupada said to the other devotees, we'd better part as friends than as enemies. So it's always important, because if you make enemies, it's just so difficult in so many ways, isn't it? And a devotee is a friend to everyone. Devotee is dear to everyone. Devotee doesn't put people in anxiety. So these are things to consider. Who am I putting in anxiety? Sometimes we put people in anxiety just because we exist. That's another thing. But we don't do anything other than exist, and they don't like us. But what we have control of, then we control that, and we're careful not to put people in anxiety as far as possible, without compromising our principles. Juggle, yeah. I was thinking today that one of the lessons I always teach is difficulties, allow all difficulties. Whatever difficulties happen in your life, allow them to bring you closer to Krishna. Whatever happens in your life, whether it's good or bad, just allow it to bring you closer to Krishna. Because if you don't, then the difficulties can bring you further away, very easily, right? Krishna the world obviously has its difficulties, and those difficulties were created by Krishna. Well, the limitations of this world, the sufferings of this world, are part of the process of pushing us towards Krishna. So if we run into difficulty and it doesn't push us closer to Krishna, it actually works against the way Krishna set the world up. Like getting punished for something, but you don't get better at it, you get worse at it. So the punishment backfires. So if there's difficulties, those are intended to bring us closer to Krishna. But often, when it's difficult, we run away. Go the other direction, right? You ever done that? You ever complained to Krishna? Why this? Isn't the Bollywood movies like that? Why this? Isn't it? They have those scenes. God, why you do, Yeah.
But Prabhuji, how can we understand that Krishna is sending the difficulty, or is it my karma? Because of that is a difficulty, or Maya is giving that difficulty?
Most of the time we're creating our own difficulties, but it's Sometimes you don't do anything and it's just difficulty happens. So, perfect timing. Things fall over just like that. According to Bhagavatam, we're supposed to accept everything as our karma. That's the proper understanding. It's all my karma, I deserve worse. That's the highest realization. It's my karma, I deserve worse. And let me tolerate it. That's the highest position. And then if you do that, you're good. You're set up in your spiritual life. Otherwise, you're going to blame somebody. Right?
Sometimes we say Krishna is testing us. Or Maya Devi, as you mentioned, Maya Devi doesn't want us to chant.
Yeah. It's the same thing. Maya testing you is Krishna's using Maya to test you. Really testing your own desire. Like I always say, when Maya comes, we're always thinking, Maya, why are you bothering me? And what's Maya going to say? She's going to say, because you were inviting me. If you don't invite me, I'm not going to come. So, it's not like Maya just randomly shows up. Oh, it's your turn today, Jagannath. We'll beat you up today. It's not like that. It's like you called her up and said, can you come over? I want to enjoy. So she comes over. And then we're all surprised. Why are you coming over? Because you called me. Duh. Right? So she comes over, you called her, but that's still a test. Now what are you going to do? You could tell her to, no, never mind, go home. Or you could say, come on in. So, everything's a test. Everything's a test, how much you want to be Krishna conscious. So Maya is good because she helps you gauge your desire. I was telling the devotees the other day, maybe it was yesterday, I was saying, I see this fear that lingers on in the hearts of so many of us. When we understand what Krishna consciousness is, Krishna consciousness essentially means that our life is dedicated for pleasing Krishna. And that idea shocks people. Like, well, if I just please him, how will I be happy? Right? Is that natural, logical mind thinks? I'm going to give everything to Krishna. I'm just going to please him. What about me? How will I be happy? And like, well, how happy are you now? You're just trying to please yourself. Like, you really happy? Like all the time? Everything's blissful and nice? No, it's not. But we're thinking, how will I be happy if I just please Krishna? And the fact is, it's the only way you'll be happy. But we have it all backwards. I have to make myself happy. Well, we're not so good at making ourselves happy. Have you noticed? It's not so easy, right? You ever get everything you want and you're still miserable? Yeah, it's not easy, right? Have you noticed that whatever you have, you still have this up here? And if that thing is miserable, then what you have doesn't really make a difference, right? You remember Bali Maharaj? He offered Vamana, whatever you want, take it. And Vamana said 3 steps. And Bali said, I'm the king. I can give you more than 3 steps. I could give you lots of land, a kingdom, whatever. He said, no. If you're not going to be satisfied with 3 steps, you won't be satisfied with the whole universe. So, our idea is I'll be happy when I get more, isn't it? More popularity, bigger position, better this, better that. And even non-devotees say, if you are not happy now, when you become a millionaire, you won't be happy. Or a billionaire, or a trillionaire. You still won't be happy if you're not happy now. And that's the condition that everybody's in. And we're afraid, how will I be happy if I give everything to Krishna? That's the only way you'll be happy. Ultimately. Yeah? Isn't that interesting? We got it all backwards. Yeah. My little thing is like, well, you know, if you have everything you want, you know, you have like the nicest car, the nicest home, the best job, everything, the best husband, best wife, best kids. So when you're depressed, you'll just be like sitting on a comfortable chair, driving a comfortable car, surrounded by loving people, but you're still depressed. It's just you'll have more comfortable depression, basically. I mean, think about it, isn't it? Like, you know, all those comforts are going to help you when, you know, when life hits you and the difficulties hit you, right? And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is teaching us how to deal with those difficulties. That's the greatest gift. We're going to lose our family, or our family's going to lose us. That's difficult. To have knowledge of how to deal with that, what a gift that is. You know, people are not going to like us. People are going to criticize us. To learn how not to be affected by that, what a gift. People are going to hurt us. To be able to forgive them, what a gift. Great gift. That's how you're happy, right? You think you could be resentful and happy at the same time? I don't think so. Go buy yourself a new computer. If you're resentful, you'll still be unhappy. Go buy a new Tesla. You'll still be unhappy. Because that's burning internally. Divorce your husband, wife, get a new one. You'll still be unhappy. Right? If you're full of resentment, full of envy, full of desire, you agree? Maybe, sort of. Yeah. So one thing is understanding and believing. Anyway, that's what Krishna says. So that we all have experience. Yes.
So, with what you just mentioned a little bit about guilt, this comes up also occasionally, where we end up comparing ourselves with, okay, this particular devotee is so much better situated. They're actually able to do better or do more and so on. And maybe I'm saying devotee, but it could be anybody. It could be in any circumstance. And then you feel kind of a little bit of self-loathing. How am I not able to do this? How am I not able to live up to those standards? And then you end up setting those standards for yourself as well, which you're probably not able to meet. And then it's perpetuating that guilt, that blame. How do we overcome that? Because that's very self-inflicted.
You want to hear a funny story? Well, you're going to hear it even if you don't want to. There's a famous writer and speaker, quite famous, well known. And he was invited to something, conference or something. And another writer and speaker was invited. And they said, to the one speaker, they said, how do you feel about the other speaker? He said, I'm intimidated by him. I'm envious of him because he's such a good writer, he's such a good speaker, etc., etc. They asked him, how do you feel about him? He said, I feel exactly the same way about him. So, the people that you think are better than you may be thinking you're better than them, number one. That's highly likely, right? Because everyone's looking at everyone else's life thinking, maybe it looks better. Or, the thing is, you don't know what's in the heart of the other person, but I can tell you what's in the heart of the other person, the same thing that's in your heart. The same desires, the same obstacles, like we all have them. It's just a matter of degree. And so that's one thing to consider, because you might be wrong when you're... I know that for a fact. That I have so much experience. And everybody struggles, and we tend to think other people are not, because we just see them externally. We don't know. We're not talking to them. We just see them at a program and think, oh, look at how he chants. He's so nice. And him and his wife, they have such a good relationship. And then, 3 months later you find out they're divorced. Like you're shocked. Because, we don't know. So, it looks good. But even if that's not always the case, you are who you are. So what you said, if you feel that way, it's a manifestation of lack of self-acceptance. It's like, he's better than I am, but I'm okay to be me. When I'm not okay to be me, then I'm only okay if I'm him or better. It's probably better, right? I won't be okay till I'm better than him. But then there'll be another better than you that you have to be better. So where does it end? And we're supposed to be appreciating and serving and all of that. So it's self-acceptance. This is who I am. And I'm a work in progress. And every day I can get better. And I wish I were like him, but I'm not. So what am I supposed to do? Cry myself to sleep for the rest of my life? Or just, accept this is who I am. And you have so many good qualities. We all have so many good qualities and attributes, so we can appreciate that. And I can use that for Krishna. Long ago I decided I'm not going to do anything I'm not good at. And there's so many people that are better than I am at so many things, and sometimes I would look at them and say, I wish I were like them because I could do more service. And then I thought, but I'm not. And if I try to do what they're doing, it's not going to be good. And it's going to take me away from doing what I can do well. So why, I'm trying to imitate them doing a 5th class job when I could just do what I do well, which is not that, but something else. And be happy. Oh, Krishna, you gave me that ability to do this. I'm happy. I'll do this. And generally what I found is the things that I do well, people like. Things I don't do well, they don't like. So, stay away from the things you don't do well. Do what you do well. And be happy. And don't compare yourself to anybody else. And just try to be better than you were last year or yesterday or whatever. But it all starts with self-acceptance. I can't accept myself because I'm not as Krishna conscious as I want to be. Nobody is. Do you think there's anyone as Krishna conscious as they want to be? I don't think so. It seems like an eternal reality. But thank you, Krishna, for giving me the opportunity to serve you and for the abilities I have. And my whole Vyasa Puja offering, you should read it this year. It's in that tributes book. It answers this question. It's really, you want to hear it? No, I can't read it because I haven't offered to Prabhupada yet. But it's about how I want to be better than I am so I could serve Prabhupada. And I said, Prabhupada, all I can do is give you the best of this handicapped person who is not expert at all these things that I wish I were expert at because I could serve you better. But at least whatever I am, I'll give you the best of that. And that's all we can do. That's the answer to the question. That offering is the answer to your question. So you have to wait till August.
So, continuing
on
that question. So, trying to improve. So, there are many instances where I have felt I'm not good at this.
Yeah.
But when I have pushed myself, I see it's not quite true.
Yes.
That I'm not that bad.
Yeah.
There is room. So, is it recommended that devotees, any individual, should try to push themselves to discover what you're really good at? Sometimes you don't realize that this is something I can do well. Just because it looks complicated, I'm not been doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And then you'll find out over time. Because sometimes what you say is totally true. You are good at something you didn't know. Or Krishna helped you. And sometimes you find out you're really bad. You were right, I'm really bad at this. And everyone will tell you after you try to organize this. That was the worst organized festival I've ever been to. You go, I told you I couldn't organize. So it's so both things are true. I always think you can put your hands up in the air and say, Krishna, help me, even though I'm not good at it. But if you're failure to execute that is going to negatively impact other devotees, then maybe you don't want to do that. You want to be sure you can do it. But if it's just like you personally engage in service, okay, let me try this. Because it won't matter if I fail. If there's no real big consequence of failing, nobody's going to suffer. Just my false ego might suffer, or it's just information that I'm not good at this, or I need to learn it, or whatever. That's a little different. Because, sometimes someone becomes a leader and it's just a disaster. They don't know how to manage, or they become a teacher and they don't know how to teach. They're not qualified, and it hurts the students. And it's like becoming a husband and you don't know what you're doing, then you'll harm your wife. You won't raise your children well. So, Krishna help me, that's there, of course. But I think there's some people in the world who are not meant to be teachers, leaders, husbands, so many things. They just can't. They do a horrible job. They've been married 3 times and every marriage was a disaster. They've been temple president 3 times and they ran every temple into the ground. It's not their fault, it's just not their skill set. But they're like really good preachers. And they can make lots of devotees. Or they can lead beautiful kirtans. Or they're like philosophically, they have great brains. Okay, no problem. It's okay to be me. That's who I am. I don't have to be you. That's the problem. I think I need to be you. But you don't. And you can't. Sometimes you have to do a service. It's just, you're the one, you have more or less the qualification, but the service is above your pay level, and you just go, Krishna, I'm going to do it. You have to help me. Because you want this service, everybody wants me to do it, so hands in the air. Or I'm jumping off the mountain, Krishna, you have to catch me. So sometimes that's necessary. Yes, is that okay?
Yes. In a small community like ours, sometimes we have to wear many hats.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we're wearing a lot of hats, but we do for the better interest of the community. We have to sometimes, and that's the time I'm like anxiety.
Yeah.
And we hear that as one advances in devotion, anxiety will reduce.
No, not necessarily.
At least the material anxiety.
Material, yeah. But there'll always be anxiety. In a sense, if there's not anxiety, then your life's too easy. You're taking on services that are, difficult. So that's good. But at the same time, you have to be practical. You take on these difficult services and it's just not your nature, and you mess them up, nobody's going to want you to do it, including yourself. So it's like I said, if Krishna is putting us in a situation where we have to do this, then okay, Krishna, help, let's go for it. And if I keep falling on my face, I guess someone else should do it. I managed all the money, and everyone says, where's the money? And you say, I don't know. You don't know? You didn't account for it? I don't know where. We had a festival. Yeah, but the festival only cost $5,000 and we collected 50. Where's the other 45? I don't know. That's not a job for you, right? And everyone's like, you stole that money. I didn't steal it, I don't have it. Well, where is it? I don't know where it is. Hope we don't find it under your mattress. Yes?
Hare Krishna. I feel like, so when I'm hearing and chanting, there's peace and there is sort of hope and joy, but then we go about doing our day-to-day activities, then the mind is very agitated. So then I feel like maybe I should increase my devotional activities, or read books, or increase my rounds. But then there is this: should I do more? What's going to happen if I commit too much? Am I going beyond my realizations?
Oh yeah, it's too much, not sustainable.
Yeah, so how do I?
Biting off more than you can chew. Well, that's not necessarily the solution to that problem. Can you state the first question, the first thing you said again?
So when I'm hearing, chanting, or reading books, I feel inspired that maybe
Then you go out, everything's good at home, and you go out in the world, and it's like day and night. Yeah, that's a challenge. That's just a challenge that everybody has, especially when they're beginning devotional service. And so, the way I think we can deal with that is, when you go out in the world, I call that sadhana part 2. Sadhana part 1 is the morning, you're chanting, you're hearing. And so whatever strength you're building up, whatever realization you're building up, whatever you're learning in the morning, you're meant to practice during the day. So it's like you're a military man, you're in the class strategy, whatever they teach, then you're going to go out, and you're going to go out in the... So how well did you learn that? So that's so if you have in mind that when I go out there, I'm supposed to practice what I learned here. When I'm reading in the Gita, with the realizations and the strength I'm getting when I'm chanting, I need a place to practice that. Otherwise, how do I even know that I'm even a devotee? Because I can chant, that's nice. I can do all that, but I have to do it in the real world, right? So if you think that way, it can help you. Okay, I'm going out in the world. This is my chance to apply Krishna consciousness, especially in interactions, tolerance, kindness, compassion. What does Krishna tell Arjuna? Don't be affected by duality. So I'm affected all the time by duality. It's too hot, it's too cold. Bad day at the office, wife's upset, children are sick. I'm totally affected by all this. And Krishna's saying, no, don't be affected by that. Be steady. Be situated in your spiritual life despite the ups and downs. So you get to practice. So rather than, because what you're saying is more or less like, I would rephrase it, we could say, everything's good when I'm doing my sadhana, but when I go out in the world, I get controlled by it. So now I'm in reactive mode, I'm getting upset, becoming intolerant, impatient, I'm not nice to people always, etc., etc. So the world is controlling me. Not you, everybody. So now's my chance to not be controlled by it. To practice all those virtues, sattva guna. Because everything's good in sattva guna. It's when you're in passion and ignorance, that's all the trouble's in passion and ignorance. The trouble is not in sattva guna. So if you go out and can maintain sattva guna, you got it made. You're not going to be affected. Infected, affected. So try going out in that mood, thinking, after 9 when I get in the car, this is sadhana, driving sadhana. How many people can I not scream at when I'm driving? You know what I'm saying? How many annoying co-workers can I be nice to? Because that's all my spiritual practice, right? So if you see that all as a spiritual practice, then there's an impetus to act that way. But if you just see, this is just the mundane world and has nothing to do with Krishna consciousness, then it's I'll wait till I get back home to be Krishna conscious. But during the day, it's whatever. I'll just be my old conditioned self and just be who I have to be to get things done. I think a lot of us feel like that. I'm Krishna conscious before 9, I'm Krishna conscious after 6, and in between, all hell let loose. Isn't it sometimes like that? And we don't realize that it's completely wrong. What are Arjuna's on the battlefield, that's where he's getting his instructions. It's okay, what are you going to do on this battlefield, Arjuna? So you're getting the instruction to go out in the battle. Battles are going on all around us, aren't they? Even for a full-time devotee, you can be doing service, going through difficulties. It's just the nature of the world. dealing with people who are difficult. You think gurus got it made, they have so many disciples, the disciples are serving them, but disciples have problems. The gurus have to deal with those problems. It's not easy. They have to be patient, kind, tolerant. Hare Krishna. Yeah, is that all right? Does that help?
So the other question I had was again like, should I increase my spiritual absorption? And
That not necessarily is going to help. I mean, of course, I can't say no, because that would be the general answer. But if you don't see your life as a sadhana 24/7, that may not necessarily help you. I mean, in theory it should help you, but not necessarily, or at least not immediately.
so constantly being self-aware of your consciousness.
Yeah. Everything you're learning, where are you going to apply it? It's like when we were chanting this morning, right? So, Acharya Das was sitting here, his wife was next. We're chanting. We're just relating to Krishna, no interaction at all. Right? It's after the morning program, there's some interaction. Right? So then be kind, considerate, nice, patient, like that. It doesn't come up during sadhana. Generally doesn't, because there's no disturbing situation. But when you go out there, then you can apply all those instructions. Be equal opposed, happiness and distress, loss, gain, victory, defeat, success, failure. All of that. Tolerate happiness. Wow, you just got a raise. Tolerate it. I'm so happy I get to go on a vacation. And Krishna's saying, yeah, if you go crazy when things are good, you're going to go crazy when things are bad. And if you're equal opposed when things are good, you'll be equal opposed when things are bad. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Did you know in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, tolerate happiness? Did you know that? Tolerate happiness. Who can understand that? Why should I tolerate happiness? That's stupid. That's the stupidest thing I ever heard in my life. Tolerate happiness? Are you kidding me? Yeah. Yeah, but if you don't tolerate happiness, you're not going to tolerate distress. Right? For an average person, I make t-shirts. Because sometimes I say something in class and I go, wow, that was good, let's make a t-shirt. So we have a t-shirt that says, tolerate happiness. It's especially meant to wear in public. So people will see that and go, tolerate happiness, why would I do that? What does that mean? And you can tell them. Because if you don't learn to tolerate happiness, you won't learn to tolerate distress. You got to be equal opposed. And they'll be like, whoa, that's deep. And you go, yeah, here's Bhagavad Gita. Just happen to have one in my pocket. Yeah. You wear the t-shirt and you go up to someone and say, do you know what this means? And they tolerate happiness. I go, no, I don't. Here's the book, it explains it. Yes?
So are there any beginner practices that you would recommend to establish, not being affected by dual nature that we live in?
Yeah.
Is there something that we can do day to day, just as a beginner,
Yeah.
to even get initiated in this?
Yeah, well, of course, chanting is the basis. Chanting japa every day. A certain number of rounds, rising early, studying every day, reading, that's important because if you're reading every day, it reminds you that this is what I'm supposed to do, because we forget very easily. Reading, praying before you go out. Like if someone's an alcoholic and they give up alcohol, every day when they get up, they pray that today I won't drink. And they go to bed, say, thank you, God, that I didn't drink. So it's like, it's 9 o'clock, I'm going out there, I'm praying that I can personify or represent Krishna's teachings, Prabhupada's teachings. So I always think that the best thing we can do is be like a walking Bhagavad Gita. Like someone meets you, they don't even have to read the Gita. They just see your life and they go, okay, I understand everything. And you study the Gita, you live that life. Now I know what Krishna says because I see it in you. So it's a nice meditation. That my life is meant to reflect everything that Prabhupada is teaching. I'm meant to exemplify that, personify it. And so in my experience, it's not just practices you can do to develop those qualities, but an awareness of the importance of acting that way, and then understanding practically how I can do it. So sometimes your wife may tell you to do something and you may take offense. That ever happen? Never, right? Or she might say, why did you do that? And you're like, whoa. But then you think, oh, okay, so I'm supposed to practice humility, or kindness. It's upsetting her. I don't want to upset her. I have to listen, even though it's difficult, because you remember that this is what Krishna wants me to do. So the point I was making is I need to understand practically, because I think a lot of times we miss opportunities to practice humility just because our false ego gets like bruised, so we just fight back. That was an opportunity to practice humility, but my conditioned nature fights back, and I didn't even realize it. Yeah, you're wrong. Don't tell me that. You're always telling me, be quiet. Leave me alone. It's like missed opportunity. I could have said, thank you for pointing that out. I'm sorry I did that. I'm the man in the house, don't tell me. It's like all these non-humble behaviors. And that's a problem, but I think the bigger problem is not even noticing that we did that. It's just, I'm right and that's what I should do. And, it's like, instead of saying, wait a minute, I could have responded differently. That's what's important. Like practically, if you don't know practically how to manifest humility, you could think you're humble just because you walk around like that. And every time she asks you to do something, you say, you do it, Every time she says you're wrong about something, you say, no, you're wrong. And you don't even realize you're not practicing humility because you go to the temple and you bow down to all the senior devotees. Like, that's not that difficult. That's normal and natural. Now my joke is, Shastra says if you don't pay obeisances to a sannyasi, you have to fast all day. So I pay obeisances to every sannyasi because I don't want to fast. So it looks good, but I just don't want to fast today, so I'm paying obeisances. And I don't realize, I'm not reflecting, that's like really stupid, not devotional. So you have to know practically what Krishna is teaching, how does that look in a day-to-day world? And I think that's a huge problem, that we don't notice that. We haven't isolated that. What does it look like? I'm right, you're wrong, I don't want to cooperate with you, that's a terrible idea, I'm not going to do it, all that stuff. And you walk away from that and you don't even think, wow, that wasn't humble. I just think, they're all stupid, they should listen to me. Right? And I don't think, wait a minute, that wasn't good. Can you relate to that? Yeah, it happens all the time, doesn't it? It's so interesting. Hare Krishna.
I want to ask, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, just a follow-up to that question. There is also this other side of the world, let's say, 10 or 5% of the world, where they're not good people in general, right? So even though 95% of the population is good, you still have to protect yourself against that 5%.
Yeah.
So in that form of self-defense, you act in a way that's protecting of yourself,
yes.
Even though that's, hey, I shouldn't have done that, I realize it after it, but my instinctive reaction is to self-defend. So how do you, and I sometimes feel bad about it, so how do you...
well, you can, I don't know the particulars of what you're thinking about, but you can self-defend without being mean, without being proud. Because you have to preserve some you have to have some boundaries just to preserve your sanity, but it doesn't mean you have to compromise your spiritual principles to do it. So you try to do it within your spiritual principles. Like let's say somebody harms you, so you have to protect yourself, and you maybe it's very serious and you need to get a restraining order or take them to court or whatever. But if you want to preserve your Krishna consciousness, you're doing it without enmity. You're doing it because it's necessary for your own well-being. They're dangerous, maybe necessary for the well-being of others. But you're not doing out of anger, envy, hatred, because all those things are contaminating you. And those are all things Krishna tells us to avoid. So I'm doing it not because I hate this person, because I need to protect myself and others from this person. So that's different. Or like Kshatras, they have to kill, they have to punish. Not because they hate, but they hate a dharma. They don't hate the person per se. They hate what the person's doing. Yeah. You might even be angry, but it's a different kind of anger. Because if we don't learn to do these things, then it's like on one hand we're chanting and developing sadhana, but then during the day it's like day and night. It's like nothing is like filtering over into the day. It's just like staying in the temple, staying in my temple room in my house, my altar room. It's not going outside. That's just like what we would call religion. I do the pujas and this and that, and but my life is not an example at all of what Krishna's teaching. That's a huge problem, right? And when we have a big movement like that, it's quite common or possible. So I'm very adamant about that, application side. And if you can define what it looks like, then you can monitor it. If you don't define what it looks like, how do you monitor it? Then you don't notice it when you don't do it, because you have no metrics for it. When we do a forgiveness workshop, we ask devotees questions we ask what is the cost of resentment? And they say, well, it cost me my health, cost me my spiritual life, it cost me relationships, cost me sanity, cost me peace of mind. Then I joke with them, I go, well, how Krishna conscious are those costs? And they're like, they're not. But we don't even notice it. We're doing things, it's not even Krishna conscious. We're not even calculating. Well, that's wrong. We just conditioned, we just respond. And then we say, well, what are the benefits? Well, I get to be better than them. I get to have an upper hand. I get to pull around. I'm not going to forgive you unless you do this and that. And how Krishna conscious is that? Not at all. But we do it. And so if you have metrics to look at, then it makes it quite clear. Right? So we look at metrics like, well, how much money did I donate? How much service did I do? Those are metrics for sure. But sometimes we use those metrics to block out the other ones because we don't want to do them or we can't do them. So we kind of try to buy our way back to Godhead. I'll donate my way back to Godhead. I'll serve my way back to Godhead. And I just won't act according to the qualities that Vaishnava should have. But I'll buy myself a spot, even though I don't have the other qualifications. We've seen that a lot. Now it's time for a joke. You want to hear a joke? Maybe you know this joke. So this man, he's a Christian, not really a Christian, he goes to church. He's like a sinful person. He goes to church and he makes a $5 donation. And so then after he dies, he's trying to get into heaven, and they're looking up his name, and who's ever in heaven, what's his name? The angel that lets you into heaven, there's some name, Anyway, he's looking up his name and he goes, I don't know. And the man says, well, I gave $5 in church. That should get me in. So then the angel, the Jai Vijay of the Christian world. He goes to God and he talks to God. This is not in the book, but he said he gave $5, and he comes back with a message from God, and he gives him back $5, and he said, God told me to give you back your $5 and go to hell. So so I think some of us think we'll like buy a ticket, I mean, although that there in the Shastra sometimes said if you build a temple, you go back to Godhead and like that. That's all there, and that may even be true, even if you're a rascal, but it's not that you buy or serve your way into not having to act like a devotee. That doesn't make any sense. But I think some people do it, right? What does it matter, Prabhu? I gave $100,000, don't bother me. Let me do what I want. It's not like that. So, that's it? Time to stop, or?
No, there's, you have one and then I have.
Okay.
We're going till Mangalarti tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah, we heard in India, like, in Bengal, the devotees would do programs. They go out to these villages and they do programs late at night, and like I think it was dangerous maybe to travel back in the village. Maybe there's tigers, I don't know. Something where they couldn't see where they're going, it's too dark. So they just stay all night. The program would go all night. Right? Kirtans and
We did a few of those in Pune. As a student, and would be this one guy who would be like completely disconnected from the first 4 or 5 hours of questioning. And he was like, all right, let's do Mangalarti. And it's like 3 o'clock at night or something like that.
Hare Krishna.
Like, what is wrong with you? Like, okay.
Hare Krishna. Yes.
So you talked about the practical application, but what are the maybe top 2 qualities we need to really monitor yourself to make Krishna center of our life? 2 qualities. Top
2 qualities.
Not 10, just 2.
But if you go to the 12th chapter, you can see the qualities that Krishna endears him, like you're a friend, which means you're kind to everyone. God, top 2, well, I mean, sincerity is the main one. But if you want something practical, honesty is extremely important, not pretending to be a great devotee. That's really important. You're monitoring your, do I have a need to show off? Am I performing service to get recognized? Do I need to tell people how great I am? These kinds of things. Because humility is everything. Without humility, you can't really develop Krishna consciousness. And then as humility manifests in relationships, it manifests as forgiveness. It manifests as compassion. It manifests as appreciation. And it neutralizes criticism. It neutralizes the desire to dominate, the desire to be right. So it's like, that's like foundational. Everything's built on that. That's Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, Bhakti is based on 3 things: compassion, humility, and forgiveness. So you got 3 instead of 2. What do you think? Sound difficult? Yeah, it's difficult, for sure. But we're trying to undo our conditioning, and our conditioning is pride. So humility is essential, the essential quality. And it manifests in your appreciation of others, your lack of criticism, your ability to cooperate, your ability to say, I'm sorry, forgive me if you do something wrong. Like that. These are the outstanding qualities of a devotee: the humility, the compassion. I can't stand to see other people suffer, and I don't want to cause anyone to suffer on my account. Because I could, you could do something wrong, and I was like, okay, let's punish you, because I was offended. So I want to see you suffer because you offended me. It's not a devotee. It doesn't think like that. So the compassion means you're the well-wisher of everyone. You desire good for everyone, even the people that are your enemies, who don't like you, who turn against you. This is very high stuff, but at least it's good to be aware that's kind of where we're trying to go. We're far from that, but that's the direction. And if we don't know that's the direction, we may never get there. Or may never see the need to be humble or forgiving or compassionate, because we don't know that the bhakti is dependent on it. But if you don't have those qualities and you practice those qualities, they'll develop. So, I don't like this person, but I'm going to appreciate them because I know that's the right thing to do. And if I do it, I will develop appreciation. So I'm going to act humbly even before I feel it, because it'll develop the feeling. So that's sadhana bhakti, vaidhi bhakti. You may not feel it, but you do it because then it'll help you feel it. I don't feel like saying I'm sorry, but I'm going to, because it's the right thing. I hate this devotee. I don't want to say anything. I don't even see anything good about him, but I'm going to say something good. Not you. The devotee over there we can't see. But I'm going to appreciate them. Thank you. Yeah, that's the heart of a Vaishnava. There was a god brother I was having a little problem with, and I wrote him, and this problem's going on for years. And I said, this is really bad. We shouldn't be doing this. I think you misunderstand me. So I explained myself, and he said, I'm sorry, and this and that. And he's like, can we travel together? And it's like, he so much wants to paste it, heal it, because it's so toxic to have. It's just so against Krishna consciousness to be that way. So when you want to be a devotee, you don't realize how difficult it is, like how high that is. You want to hear a story? Have you ever heard the story of Vasudeva Datta? And he went to Lord Chaitanya and said, give me the karma of every person in the world and let them go back to Godhead. Do you know about that story? It's like, wow. He says, I will take the suffering of everyone on my head. And Prabhupada said, Jesus said you have to surrender and I'll take the suffering. Vasudeva Datta said, I'll just take it. You don't have to surrender. He said, he's more merciful than Jesus. And when I was in the hospital after my surgery, I was like, it was so hard, so much suffering. And I thought of that and I thought, I can't imagine. I'm just taking the suffering of my own karma. What to speak of everyone's karma? I can't imagine that level of suffering. I could never do that. And he's doing it. So it's like, wow, that's such a high, Vaishnava is such a high position. But we hear these stories because we're trying to move slowly, somewhat closer. Maybe we can't get there, but closer. Bhaktisiddhanta said, you should desire the greatest good for your worst enemy. Like, who can do that? That's right. But we're trying to do that a little more. That's what it means to be a devotee. So it's a really big thing. I just thought being a devotee was chanting and eating gulabs. Gulab jamun. I thought that was it, and hanging out with my friends. No, it's way up there, what it means to be a devotee. It's big. But we need to hear about it and, try to get a little closer to it. You can't expect you're going to get that close right away, but a little bit. You had a question.
Yeah. So, the question I had can wait, but just as a follow-up to this. So we hear about these really high standards, and we read about the Goswamis, we read about Srila Prabhupada, and the immense struggle that he went through, and the standards that he set for himself. And we look at his disciples, that we actually have examples of that. They're no longer just in books, and we end up measuring ourselves, and we fall very short. At least I do. And I don't know. I feel like, am I ever going to be anywhere close to this? And does it mean that I'm perpetually going to be struggling, and till I get to that point? And then what is the point? And why does it take so long? So all of these doubts.
Yeah.
Doubts and,
Well, if we're not Krishna conscious, it's not that we're not going to struggle in the material world. So might as well struggle for something rewarding. Yeah. Have you ever heard stories of devotees, like in the last weeks of their lives, transform into like these amazingly Krishna conscious persons? Yeah. So I think sometimes Krishna just waits to the end. It's like, I was told a story that Indradumna Swami went to a sadhu and he respects in Vrindavan. Then he said, I kind of feel like I just want to go deeply into Krishna consciousness. Stay here in Vrindavan. And the sadhu said, don't go too deep, because if you do, you won't want to preach. And you'll just want to. It's interesting instruction, right? So maybe we could say, maybe Krishna's just like Prabhupada's keeping us in a state where we can't go so deep that we wouldn't want to go out and help people. And at the end, he'll say, okay, you did it, now I'm going to give it to you. And that's what it seems like. Because you could imagine if you get too self-absorbed, you just want to chant 64 rounds and read. There's so much to read and study and so forth. So, but if you talk to any devotee who's been around 40, 50, 60 years, they'll tell you it definitely works. It gets easier as you go on. But Prabhupada, I was told, Urmila said, Prabhupada said, took him 40 years to perfect his japa. So you can ask this question after you've been a devotee 40 years, and we'll reassess it. Because maybe after 40 years you won't have the question. You'll be like, yeah, it does work. How many years you've been devotee?
almost 30.
Yeah, so 10 years. We'll check you out 10 years from now and see. We'll see how you're doing. I think in 10 to 20 years you won't have this question. You'll go, yeah, it does work. It's, Prabhupada tells this story. There was an old man, I think he was dying in the hospital, and his friend came to see him, and his friend brought his daughter, and as soon as they walked in, the man looked right towards his daughter, like he was attracted. It just caught his attention. And Prabhupada was saying, just see conditioning is so deep that even at the end of his life, his mind was still thinking of women. So, and in spite of that, we're going on. In spite of that conditioning, we're going on. So that's a positive. You're not as bad as you think. And you're helping so many people, and Krishna appreciates it. And if Krishna makes it too easy, then we go to sleep. So he keeps us on our toes. There's a story of Bhaktisiddhanta. He was collecting for some project. So when his disciples collected all the money, he said, now go out and collect the money again. And they said, we just did. He said, oh, I gave that to another project. And they said, well, why did you do that? He said, because I want you to just always be struggling. Like you don't have any time for anything else. You just only have time for service. So I just pile you up with service and anxiety in service. And do you want to hear something really funny? Do you know that traditionally devotees chanted 64 rounds a day? Any of you aware of that? That's like a norm, 64. And so, not everyone in Gaudiya Math chanted 64, but Bhaktisiddhanta pushed it. And they say even more so amongst the Grihastas, although eventually he didn't. But the idea was that I guess in those days, people didn't work that long. Maybe four hours a day or 5 hours, or they're farmers that, they work in the morning, whatever. So he said, look, if you don't chant 64 rounds, you're just going to gossip all day. But if you chant 64 rounds, you have no time to gossip. Isn't that funny? It's true, isn't it? Finish your 16 rounds, now you can gossip. So, it will reap its results, and Prabhupada said it would, so we don't have to doubt it. He said it will. If you just do it right, then you don't have to worry. You're on the train. It's going, from Mayapur from Kṛṣṇa to Mayapur, so you don't have to worry. It's going to Calcutta. It's going there. I was on a train in Germany. This was so weird. I was in Germany and it's going from Germany to somewhere, I don't know where, maybe Amsterdam, I can't remember. And I'm like, yeah, I'll take a train. I like trains. So they put me on a train, and they didn't tell me all the seats were reserved, so I had no place to sit. So then I thought, well, I'll walk and go on to the next train. And somehow or other, I figured this out, I don't even know how. But that cart that I was in was going to be detached from the cart that I was on and was going to go to a different place. And I was like, I go, where's this train going? I was on the one behind me. He goes, you better get on the one behind. So it stopped and I ran. So now I'm on the right train, so I'm going to the right place. So it's like that. You're on the right train, so now you don't have to worry. Isn't that funny? You're on a train and the car you're in is like, it's not going where the car behind's going. Hare Krishna.
So, you mentioned about anxiety. So we keep hearing that we shouldn't be attached to the results, kamanavadikas and all that.
Huh.
Then we do some service. But I have to admit, I am attached.
Yeah.
I'm like to the results. If you're doing this cooking, we want it to be coming out to be okay. If you're doing this, whatever it is, whatever arrangement.
Yes.
And so, isn't that attachment?
No. If you're not attached to doing it well for Krishna, something's wrong with you. The detachment is, I'm not doing this for my sense gratification. That's a detachment. Yeah, I want to distribute a lot of books for Krishna, so I try really hard, right? But it's not for me. So Krishna says, you have a right to the work, but not to the result. I'm not doing this to get glorification. I'm not doing this to get money. There's no personal motivation. So then I'm detached. But I'm very attached to wanting to do a lot of books because that'll please Prabhupada. But, so because if I'm so detached, like whatever, I'll just sit on the street and go, excuse me, sir, you want a book? And I'll come back and I won't sell one book. And say, whoa, how come you didn't sell any books? I'm not attached, Prabhu. You're attached. You sell a lot of books because you're attached. So it's attachment to enjoying the result. You can see Prabhupada was very attached to so many things, making things happen. Attached to the organization of the movement, attached to how the temples were built and used and how the money was spent and so many things. You know that story when they opened the Vrindavan temple and they had the chokidar ring the bell every hour, and Prabhupada's up late at night and an hour passes and nobody rings the bell. He wakes up and he calls his servant and he goes, did you hear that? And he said, hear what? They didn't ring the bell. Did you hear that they didn't ring the bell? And he goes, go wake up the chokidar, he's sleeping. That's why he didn't ring the bell. So he's very attached to things running well. But it wasn't for him, for his personal gratification. So that's the detachment. And another form of detachment comes in the beginning of Prabhupada's arrival in America. Because when Prabhupada came, he felt like, I don't think I could do this on my own, I need help. So there was one brahmachari who was willing to come. So he said, ask your spiritual master if you can come. And his spiritual master didn't think Prabhupada was going to be successful. So he wrote back and said, my Guru Maharaj thinks this is kind of ludicrous what you're doing. It's just impossible. You're not going to make Krishna consciousness happen in America. And Prabhupada said, he wrote him back, he said, we're just like soldiers in the field. We're just fighting. So whether we're successful or not, our duty is to serve the order of our Guru. So that kind of detachment also. Now, obviously he wanted it to be successful, but there was that detachment that even though I'm attached to making it successful, I'm also detached in the sense that I may fail. So I'm not going to, be on a roller coaster if I fail. Because I executed the order of my Guru. So I have a slide of, in one of my courses, I have a slide of Prabhupada going up the plank, or whatever they call it, the gang plank, on the Jaladuta. And I said, to me, that picture is success. He actually got on the boat. He left India to execute the mission of his Guru. Whatever follows, it's not going to affect his success. He could have made no devotees, but that was his success, that he went with nothing to America. That's what I think. Right? And so Prabhupada, he was detached. He went there. It's like, he doesn't know. I don't know. Krishna, how's anybody going to come? But when people started coming, then, he saw, okay, we have, Lord Chaitanya's mission is happening. So there was that other side of let's make it happen. So it's a balance. It's like what to be attached to and what not to be attached to. Yeah. Isn't it? Yeah. Wouldn't you like to see the world Krishna conscious? Aren't you attached to that? You're attached to making Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Big Krishna conscious programs, yeah, of course. We should be. But if we fail, or it doesn't live up to our expectation, then we're not upset. Materially upset. Not like, oh, I'm so bad, I'm so useless, I give up. Not like that. That's how that material attachment would affect us, right? Lose our enthusiasm. Yeah. Okay, Krishna, I tried, doing my best. I'm patiently waiting. Let's see. I told Acharya Das, 30 years. It takes like 30 years to make something really happen, in a big way. If you look at all the ISKCON projects. I mean, when Prabhupada was here, it happened in like 1-2 years. But look at India, look at those temples, look how long it took. Chowpatty. I think Chowpatty is like 30 years before it became like really something, and then Pune and all that. So, patience. Yes.
So many of us have, maybe I'll just speak about my family. My parents, they're quite elderly. I would say I don't know whether there's a label for it, semi-pious or whatnot.
Semi?
Pious.
Oh, okay.
I don't know whether that even is a
religious
distinct terminology or not. So when I'm there, they'll do some service, and they really try their best. My father actually did the Bengali translation for your
wow, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's all good, but
Achha.
then, you go over there and you see them in front of their television or whatever, at least my father is like 12 hours, 18 hours of his life. And so it doesn't matter. So there's this duality, this dichotomy in their lives as well.
Yeah.
Towards the end of, and I don't know whether it applies only to elderly people. I guess my life could end tomorrow, so it might apply to me as well. But towards the end of our lives, what do we tell people, or how do we inspire ourselves and others that look, time is running out? Like, how can we instill that sense of urgency in ourselves and in others?
Well, when Prabhupada was asked, why did you make young men sannyasis? You should give it to old men. And Prabhupada said, well, what do you mean by old? And he said, old means near death. And Prabhupada said, can you say these young men are not near death? So your question, I think, is for all of us, not just old or young. I was in a lecture, and Bhagavatam, Parikshit Maharaj, he had 7 days to live, and he went and he found Sukadeva Goswami. So for 7 days, Sukadeva Goswami spoke the Bhagavatam, and then on the 7th day, he was bitten by a snake bird and he died. And Prabhupada said, I was in the lecture, he said, you don't know if you have 7 days, you don't even know if you have 7 moments. So Prabhupada had a theme that was woven through so many of his lectures and so many of his purports, which is, you're a human being at the time of Mahaprabhu, and you have this rare chance to go back to Godhead, so just do it. That was the logic. You ever 50 years, if I just would have invested $1,000 in Microsoft, I'd have zillions of dollars right now. And you're just sitting there crying, And my friend, he came to me and said, invest $1,000. I go, that's too much money. I don't have it. And he went, bought a sports car instead or something, So they say that everyone has some big opportunity in their life that they usually don't take advantage of. Like something comes where you could have been way more successful than you were and you don't take advantage of it. So that was kind of like Prabhupada's mood. You're a human being. You are so close to going back to Krishna. Don't blow it. That's how we explain it. That's how he explained it. It's so rare. You're so close. It's just do it. Otherwise you'll lament. I could have been a billionaire with $1,000 invested in Microsoft. Or Apple or Amazon or whatever. Tesla. Gold, 20 years ago. Gold's 10 times higher than it was 20 years ago. So many things to lament about that we didn't take advantage of.
Any other questions, comments? We have one more.
And then Prabhupada said, he said, be prepared fully for going back home, back to Godhead. Prepare, your life is a preparation. It's I'm traveling here, So they say, are you prepared? Are you all packed? Are you ready to go? And I go, yeah, I'm all packed. It's are you packed up to go back to Godhead? Are you ready? Got everything in place? That was how he talked to us. Your daily life is a preparation for your eternal home in the spiritual world. Yes, you had?
Yeah, I had a question. This question came in a test.
A test.
Yeah. So anything in the material world, activities that we perform, they say that the living entity does not really do anything. It's the modes. But we see the activities can be similar, like devotional and, so to speak, devotion neutral, or that's just to meet the needs of the body. So I was wondering that we use hands, legs, our intelligence, everything that is physically manifest to perform devotional service, as we do to perform our quote-unquote, devotion neutral activities. So what is the difference? Why is it that devotional activities don't fall in the same category as, the other kind of activities that is said to be done by the 3 modes?
Because they're not under the influence of the material energy.
It was the same living entity. We have the same, same body.
just like Prabhupada said. He said, the parents of devotees come to me and they see their kids cleaning the temple, and they said, I could never get him to clean his room. And Prabhupada said, but now it's for Krishna. So they want to do it, it's different. So it's under Yoga Maya, it's under divine energy. So it's the same activity, but the energy is different. I don't know if that's what you were asking. Or?
It's sort of what we're asking, but it's also it sometimes it's not clear. We clean the temple, but sometimes like it may seem that we are cleaning the temple so that we don't really have that sense of connection.
But still the activity is true. But still the activity is transcendental. So it's not under the influence of the modes of nature, per se. I mean, you might be under the influence a little bit, but the activity itself isn't. And so you're getting purified by it.
Performing that.
Yeah. It's devotional service. It's a different category of activity, even though it looks the same. I mean, Prabhupada writes about that in the Bhagavatam. He said, we're doing so many things, it looks like we're doing what everyone else does. But because it's for Krishna, it's totally different. The effect is totally different. Yeah.
So the consciousness. Different.
Consciousness, and just you're under the shelter of the spiritual energy, not the modes. Everything's happening by the modes for materialistic people. But devotees are not being influenced by the modes. Prabhupada said, when you're sitting in Bhagavatam class, you're in the mode of goodness, just hearing. Like we're all in the mode of goodness right now, we're hearing. If we're actually hearing, we're in the mode of goodness. If you do Sankirtan, spread the mission of Krishna consciousness, Mahaprabhu will always protect you. Like that. Krishna will take care of you. You're giving yourself life to Him. It's not material.
Even though if we are not purified, like
Yeah.
our false ego is still there.
Yeah.
We have to process.
It's better if your false ego is not there, but it's still spiritual. It's just a matter of degree. I mean, you can do devotional service in the mode of ignorance. It's possible. But I was referring to doing it properly. But if you do it improperly, then you're doing devotional service, but you're being affected by ignorance. It's possible. You do devotional service and your goal is to become famous. That's tamagun or rajagun. So then, even though you're doing devotional service, you're influenced by the mode of passion. Right? Correct? Okay. You're all liberated now. Now you know what to do. Yes?
Are there any additional questions or comments from anyone?
Last one probably. So
Yes.
just continuation to this. So can we say that Indra and Vritrasur, so you said it should be in a Sattva gun. So can we say like Indra was in Tamogun or Rajagun and Vritrasur was in Sattva gun? So he understand Krishna.
You could say that. I mean, generally we say demigods are in sattva-gun, but Indra sometimes is not
Or
perfectly in sattva-gun.
or other interpretation would be Vritrasur was in Rajagun or Tamagun, but not necessarily you have to become a devotee that you should be in Sattvagun. You could be in Rajagun or Tamagun.
Yeah, you could be, but you should try to be in sattva-gun. That's where it's going to be easiest. Because the energy of Rajas and Tamas is it's a very heavy energy and it pushes you away from Krishna. With Sattva-gun, it's neutral and it's right. Sattva-gun it's like almost transcendental. And so many qualities of Sattva-gun are spiritual qualities. In Sattva-gun, maybe they're not used for Krishna. In Vishuddha Sattva, they're used for Krishna. You ever read the quality of Sattva and you think, oh, this sounds like the qualities of a devotee. But it doesn't mean those qualities would be used for Krishna, necessarily. But those are qualities which are conducive for becoming Krishna conscious. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Go Premanandi.
Mahatma will keep.